Our standard for today's lesson is organize, represent, and interpret data with up to 3 categories. Ask and answer questions about the total number of data points, how many in each category, and how many more or less are in one category than in another. Our objective is I can interpret data by answering questions about a graph. And lastly, our mathematical practices are talk about math and model math. We're going to be explaining your ideas with math vocabulary and also showing your work with a graph to model. Before we get started, there are some important vocabulary words we need to know. If we look at the picture on the left, we see parts of a graph labeled. The first important word we want to look at is title at the top. The title is the name of our graph and it always goes at the top of the graph. The title of this graph is Our Pets. The next vocabulary word underneath title is data. Data is all of the information we collect. So in our graph, it is all of the colored boxes is all of the data. The last vocabulary word in the picture is labels. Labels are at the bottom of a graph and show the different categories that each colored bar represents. So the labels for this graph are cat, fish, pig, and dog. On the right side, there are just a few more words I want you guys to know. The first one is total, which is all of the votes added together. So that would be if we added up all of the colored boxes to get the total amount of votes. The next word is most, and that is the category with the greatest amount of votes, or the highest bar. So in this graph, the category with the most votes would be fish, the yellow one. The last vocabulary word is fewest, and that is the category with the smallest amount of votes, or the shortest bar, which in this graph would be the pig, since it only has 2 votes. Hi first grade, I miss you guys. For today's math lesson, I have a lesson on graphs for us today. Can you guess what this graph is about? If you said ice cream, you're correct. Since we just reviewed our vocabulary for today's lesson, we're going to play a quick matching activity. So I have the different vocab cards for the parts of our graph, and you are going to help me put them where they go. So the first vocab word I have is title. Where is the title on our graph? If you said up here, you are correct. Our title for today's graph is Our Favorite Ice Cream Flavors. Okay, the next vocabulary card I have is categories, or we can also call them labels. Where are those? If you said at the bottom here, you're correct. These are our categories. They're each of the options that we can vote on for our graph. So I'll put that one here. And then our label on here says ice cream flavor. So it lets us know the category and each of the options for our graph. Alright, the last vocabulary word I have is data. First of all, what is data? If you're thinking that it's information that we collect, you're right. So where is the data in our graph? Perfect. If you're thinking it's all of our ice cream cones, you're right. Our data is everything inside the graph. Alright, so today we're going to be working on interpreting this data by answering questions on this graph. So there's a few different questions we're going to go over. And the first one is going to be how many total votes are there on our graph? If you said 6, you are correct. How did you get the number 6? Exactly. To find the total, we want to count all the votes on our graph. So let's count how many ice cream cones there are, because each ice cream cone is 1 vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 total votes. Perfect. The next question we're going to look at is what category has the fewest amount of votes? Is it strawberry, chocolate, or vanilla? If you said vanilla, you're right. How did you know it was vanilla? Good, because vanilla has the least amount. They only have 1 vote, which is the smallest. Good job. The next question, and these ones are a little bit trickier, is how many more votes did chocolate get than strawberry? How many more? Think to yourself for a second. What does it mean when we say how many more? Do we add or subtract? If you said subtract, you're right. When we hear the phrase how many more, we always know to subtract. So there's different ways we can do this. But if we're looking at how many more chocolate than strawberry, then we need to know that we subtract those two numbers. So how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 votes for chocolate, and then we're going to be subtracting 2. 1, 2. So 3 take away 2, 1, 2, is how many? 1. So we knew that there was 1 more vote for chocolate than strawberry by subtracting those two numbers. We can also just look at our graph to see how many more. If we want to know how many more voted for chocolate than strawberry, then we can just see, until they stop matching up, how many extra votes for chocolate were there. And we can see that there's just 1. So we're right. Awesome. You guys did an awesome job at looking at this graph with me and answering questions, talking about math and modeling math using our graph. Your exit ticket is on the next slide. And my last question for you is, what ice cream would you vote for? Bye. Here's your exit ticket. Do it on your own paper and upload to Class Dojo. The graph on this one is toys sold in a day. From top to bottom we see motorbikes, dolls, ducks, and cars. Number 1. Which toy has the least votes? Number 2. What is the total amount of people who voted? Number 3. How many more votes did dolls get than ducks? Good luck! I miss you guys!